Morning, guys. We're going to start off at our new unit, Unit 3. You're going to work on these notes before we get to our lab today. Joke of the day. What do you call an educated tube? Yeah, I said tube. A graduated cylinder. Graduate. All right. The paper you need today is this one. It's 3.1a. It is Properties of Matter. This is going to be in two parts. We're going to talk about physical properties, the ones that are observable and measurable, and then we're going to talk about chemical properties after that. Please pause the video as you need to get through, and let's go ahead and roll. Here we go. Substances, as we kind of review, when we talk about matter, a substance is a single sample of matter that is pure with no other things present. You can see that an example which you should draw or write in the substance box, you can see there's salt and there's sugar. You'll be working with some pure substances today in lab. They can be elements or compounds. And like I said, example is table salt, NaCl, and sugar. Now, a mixture is a combination of substances, and they're not chemically combined. So when you look at it, you can see all of the different parts. When you look at salt, you just see salt. When you look at sugar, you just see sugar. When you see water, you just see water. When you look at a seventh grader, you just see something that smells. But in this trail mix, you can see that there are different types of food in there. You can see the almonds, you can see the raisins, you can see the cashews. And so that is a mixture. They always, each substance in a mixture keeps its own characteristics. All right, let's start with our first box. What is a property? A property is a characteristic of matter. Each pure substance has a unique set of properties that can be used to identify it. And that's what we're doing in our unit, is trying to identify what substances are based on their properties, their color, their density. The properties of the substances depend on, and pause if you need it here, its structure at the molecular and atomic levels. It's how those atoms are put together, and that determines the color, it determines the density, how close the particles are, it determines everything. What is a physical property? And we're at our third box on the right. It's a property of matter that can be observed or measured without changing the identity of the matter. So, for example, on the left, we have some pyrite. Sorry about that. Mr. Werner, our eighth grade science teacher, popped in. He needed something from me. So, as I was saying, the pyrite on the left here, you can observe the physical properties. You can check the color. You can check the density. You can check all of these things without changing it. You're not doing anything to it. Some examples of physical properties, and please just write a few here. I know there are a lot, but you just write a few. Color and odor, texture, the state of matter at room temperature. For example, you saw that dry ice turns to a gas at room temperature. We know that water is a liquid at room temperature. We even know that gold is a solid at room temperature. Density, that's how close the particles are packed together. And even melting and boiling point. All of those elements on our periodic table of elements, they have their own unique melting and boiling points. All right. Solubility. You're going to practice this one today. Solubility is the ability to dissolve in another substance. For example, if you put sand into water, it is not going to dissolve. It's insoluble. But if you put salt in hot water, the salt will dissolve. You have salty water. You can't see the salt anymore, but the salt is still there. We call that soluble. Melting and boiling points. Please pause the video and write these pieces in. The melting point is when a solid becomes a liquid. And the boiling point is when matter will start turning to gas. And you can see the bubbles, and we've talked about in class how the bubbles in a liquid are really just filled with gas. And the reason they rise to the top is because the gas is lighter or less dense than the water, so it's trying to escape from the top. And every substance has its own melting point and boiling point, and no two are the same. The last one is density. We'll have a separate lab for this later next week. Density is the measure of how compact the object's particles are. For example, this paper here, it's not very dense. I can put a hole through it. And there we go. See, I can put a hole through it right there. But this graduated cylinder, I can't necessarily get my hands through very easily. It's really difficult because the molecules the atoms are so compact together. It's not the same as mass and weight, not at all. Some density here examples. Every substance has its own density. So everything on the periodic table of elements has its own unique density, as does salt and even sugar. For example, gold you can see has a higher number. Water has a lower number. And that implies that gold has a higher density, which means the particles are more closely packed together. And then water is less packed together, and you can put your hands through it. Have a great day, guys. Let's do some labs. Woo woo.